mean, who doesn't love a good time lapse, right? They're good for connecting scenes, for showing movement from one place to another, and they're just all around good B-roll. And with the new updates in Premiere Pro 2020, they are super easy to make. So let's roll the intro and I'll show you how. If you're new here, welcome. I'm James Lavish and I do tutorials, insights, and reviews. So if that sounds interesting to you, hit the subscribe button. You'll be super appreciated. So you've probably seen those cool intervals, maybe in the Casey Neistat videos, or the beginning of the Hangover movies.
Take that, rewind it back. Ursula got the voice to make your booty go.
Or my personal favorite is the intro of the House of Cards. Super cool. But there are two ways to make time lapses. In the traditional way, you take a whole bunch of photos over a long period of time and then stitch them together to make a short video. Or the easy way, where you take a long video and then just condense it down into a short time lapse. In this video, I'm going to teach you the easy way. And in just a few minutes, you're going to be out there taking some killer time lapses for yourself. If you're new here, you can check out my work at James Lavish on Instagram or on my website, jameslavish.com. I'll put both links below. Okay, so let's just take a few minutes to talk about time lapses in general. If you already know this stuff, I'll put the timestamp right here and you can jump ahead to the Premiere Pro feature. Like I said, there's two different ways to make time lapses and there's benefits and drawbacks to each way. Traditional time lapses are usually higher quality, they take up much less storage, and they're easier to capture high dynamic range situations like sunsets or sunrises. The drawbacks are they take a much longer time to process, they require special software to process, and you can't really speed ramp or change the pace of the video once it's been created. In a video time lapse, they're super easy to make. You can put in speed ramps and change the pace of the video as much as you want after you've created it, and they don't require any special software except the video editing software you already use. The drawbacks are they require a ton of hard drive space. It's more difficult to capture high dynamic range situations like the sunsets or sunrises, and they're not quite as high quality, so they're not suitable for professional or commercial output. So what kind of equipment do you need to make a video time lapse? Well, anything you would use to make a typical video. So the lens you choose is going to depend on the scene you're trying to capture. So I like to take along a zoom lens to give me plenty of options. Also, you're going to want to take along an ND filter in case it's super sunny outside or you're trying to capture a shallow depth of field in your video, because you want to keep your shutter speed at 1/50th since you're probably shooting 24 FPS. And finally, you're going to need a tripod. I like the Gorilla Pods because they draw less attention, especially from security guards or police who may ask you for a permit when you're out there shooting, and I've never had a problem with one of these. Okay, so then it's just up to choosing your subject and deciding how long a video you need in order to make the time lapse that you want. So I'm not going to bore you with the math, but understanding this may help you plan your video properly. Okay, let's keep this super simple, shall we? So, assuming you have a 24 frame per second timeline and you want a 10-second time lapse, that's 24 times 10 equals 240 frames that you need for your time lapse. Now, assuming that you have a 5-second interval, in order to have enough frames for that 10 seconds, you're going to need 5 seconds times 240 equals 1,200 seconds of shooting for your interval, or a total of 20 minutes. So basically, if we shoot a video for 20 minutes and compress it down to 10 seconds, that's essentially the same thing. And you can do this with any length of interval. You just change out the 5 seconds to whatever it is. So if it's 10 seconds, then this becomes 2,400, and that equals 40 minutes. So if you're doing a sunrise or sunset, you might have to shoot for 40 minutes in order to get enough video footage to compress it down to the 10 seconds for your video time lapse. So tell me, what are your favorite time lapses, and are there any that I ought to be checking out? If you think there are, put in the links below. Also, if you're wondering what lenses to use for time lapses, I just did a video called The Holy Trinity, and it covers Sony's 3 main G Master zoom lenses. I'll put it in the links below and you can check that out too. Okay, let's jump into Premiere Pro and I'm gonna show you just how easy it is to make one of these now. Okay, so we're in Premiere Pro here, and you can see that I dropped the video onto the timeline, and it's exactly 20 minutes. So we need to speed this up quite a bit to get it down to a 10-second time lapse and to mimic a 5-second interval. So the first thing we're going to want to do is right-click on the clip and unlink our video and our audio because we don't need the audio. And so we'll come down here and just delete the audio. And then the next thing we want to do is right click on the video clip itself and then go up here to where it says speed duration. Click on that. And then in the speed window, you want to put 10,000%, and that's as fast as Premiere Pro lets you speed it up to. You press OK, and that'll take the clip down quite a bit. We can move this color grade down. We don't need it quite that long anymore. And so 1/10,000th gets you to 12 seconds. But we want this to be 10 seconds. So the next thing we have to do is right click on this clip again and then show clip keyframes down here at the bottom. Go down to time remapping and click speed. And what that does is it takes this bar right here that's on the clip and it makes it a speed ramp. So you can take it, you can make it slower or you could speed it up. And we're gonna take this up to 120%. And that gets us to exactly 10 seconds, and that will mimic our 5-second interval 20-minute time lapse. Now, if you want to add a speed ramp to this, let's undo all that. And so now we're back at 20 minutes. You'd find a spot here that you want to isolate and play it full speed or a different speed, and then you're going to speed up the rest of the clip by that same 12,000%. So you find your spot that you want to isolate and slow down, and in this situation I found a spot that I want to slow down right at 11 minutes and 20 seconds. So I'm going to press cut here. I'm going to cut the clip and I'm going to let it play at full speed until 11:32. And then I'm going to cut the clip right there at 11:32. And that part here in the middle, if you press V, you get your cursor back. This part right here in the middle is going to play at normal speed. And we'll speed up the rest of this by that 12,000%. So we'll right click here, speed duration. We'll make that 10,000%. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing again. Right click, show clip keyframes, time remapping speed. And we're going to speed this up by 120%. And now that clip right there is sped up to be like a 5-second interval clip. And then we're going to come back to this clip before the clip that we isolated. And we're going to do the same thing. Right click, speed duration, make that 10,000%. And then we're going to ripple delete this to get these all back in line. And then again, show clip keyframes, time remap to speed, take this up to 120% and right click here and ripple delete that. And then we have our time lapse at a 5-second interval for 20 minutes with a speed ramp here in the middle. And now one of the things that you'll find is Premiere Pro is trying to handle all the information of that huge 20-minute 4K file. So what you're gonna wanna do is press I for in here and then go to the end of the clip and press O for out and then go up here and sequence. You're going to want to render into out because otherwise your computer is just going to struggle to keep up and the video playback will be really choppy. You won't be able to really tell what you've done. So we'll wait for this to render real quick. Okay, it's ready to go. And this is what it looks like, your 5-second interval time lapse with a speed ramp. Only in Las Vegas. And so the next thing you do is probably map this to some music or maybe some sound effects or something. You just want to cut that music to match the ramping. And now remember, if you want to do a sunrise or a sunset and it's a different interval or it's a different length of time that you videoed for, just do the math and you can use those two methods to speed up your clip in order to get to the length of time that you want your final time lapse to be. Okay, so now you have a super easy way to add time lapses to your own videos and projects. Also, let me know if you want me to do a video on traditional time lapses and how to create those. And before you go, if you could tap that like button, it really does help. And if you haven't subscribed yet, it would be super appreciated. And I'll see you in the next video.